Good morning. Today is Sunday, December 7th, 2025. And this is the weekly Bitcoin price forecast, looking at where Bitcoin went in the last week and where it could potentially go in the future. So November has closed. We're done with November. This is the first full week of December. And price so far has been pretty stagnant. It ran up in the beginning of the week, and then it, towards the end of the week dropped quite a bit to get kind of back to the original point to where it started. So we see this is the whole month of December here, this little candle. And we saw that, it started right here at 90, ran up to about 94, dropped as low as 85, 83, and is resting now at around 89. Still holding on this 21-month moving average. So this is a pretty strong level for price to reject off of. Historically, we've seen that, price will have these run-ups. It may deviate below it for a little bit, hit this 50-week moving average, and then bounce off. So we was this 2019. You see it broke that down below, came to the 50, moved back up again. Couldn't, as long as it's rejecting the 21-month moving average, you're still very much so in a bull run. But here at this point, we saw it even deviated below that to go into, and this is a massive one, deviated even below the 50-week moving average and 50-month moving average, and then started its climb back up to the top. So the 21 and 50 are significant on the monthly time frame. They serve as key areas of dynamic support and resistance, I'll say. So I've talked about already the mid 70s still absolutely being in play. Even as low as 65, which would coincide with the top here. I really don't see it going too much lower than that. Realized price is somewhere around 60. And as this goes lower and people start to realize price more and more, that price will increase as well. So it'll probably end up coinciding somewhere with the 50-month moving average. So this is the 50-month moving average is pretty much a year-long trend to see where that goes. So taking a look at the weekly, we can see at this point that overall price has pretty much been in if we want to call this a box, from November of last year, so really around election time. It's just been in a range, and just ranging back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And now we're kind of at the bottom of that range too, which kind of coincides with the top of this range. So even if it goes a little bit below this and deviates, hey, you're still kind of in the box. At that point, this is again, we see this is serving some type of area of support here. Price at this point, this is the 200-week moving average, which also is a very key level. Moving up steadily at this point, we're at 66. Over the coming weeks, it'll move up to 73, assuming that price doesn't deviate too far below it. Realistically, we haven't seen that too much in the past. We did in 2022. Price ran below the 200-week moving average and stayed there for it created a box under it for about almost 3/4 of a year, so about 9 months, 273 days. So that's interesting. Maybe the 2/3 of a year, so 66%, something like that. But historically, price will come and bounce off that 200-week moving average, and we see it sustained above here. Before it's like, okay, well, this is resistance, then support, and then it just absolutely is off to the moon. So, coming down here, that still puts you in about the 60 area. Right now, everything is objectively bearish. Right now, it's objectively bearish, and I will talk a little bit about that too, as to why I believe that. Let's put the drawings on. So again, we couldn't quite break above this white line. I called this the escape velocity line for a long time. This is key, and at this point, it has proven its worth. It is a key indicator that price, hey, it has to get above here before we enter a new regime. Short-term holder realized price, I probably need to modify that and see where that is now. It's probably somewhere in here as price has dropped. But we see on the weekly chart that one thing I'm looking at is, and you'll see a little bit more clearly on the daily chart, is we formed a series of bull flags. So hey, bull flag here, bull flag, bull flag, bull flag. For the first time, I think we're forming some type of kind of bearish flag to where, hey, we could see some type of slow gradual movement up to 94 and then drop, but more than likely it'll probably just be a couple more days to weeks of chop here in the upward direction, and then I would think a drop probably to 75. Just go ahead and be done with it. Because at this point, people aren't super optimistic about just like, oh yeah, a huge rally. Because again, there's not a catalyst. I don't know what the catalyst is, and I said this probably a month or two ago. I was like, I don't know what the next catalyst is. Realistically, I think it'll just be a massive wave of money printing, which I think that'll probably go into next year. But the first, I think there's going to have to be some type of big, almost liquidation event, kind of big catalyst that will send them into a money printing frenzy. But that is yet to be determined. So one thing I do look at is momentum. I look at momentum, and I'm going to turn these drawings off. So let's look at momentum. I use this in my day trading and swing trading, but it's a really good tool to be able to see like, hey, where's price moving? So like this line is the momentum above and below the zero line. So below zero, it's moving down in a negative fashion. And once it starts moving positive, rising, all right, well, we have strong momentum to the upside. And, the other thing you end up looking at is this blue line, which is acceleration. So acceleration goes up and down, which is the change in the velocity or the change in the momentum. So what I'm seeing is we've already hit this area of, okay, well, now momentum is objectively decreasing. And, we see these rounded bottoms and rounded tops. So you see these rounded tops, all right, well, game's over. You come up here, even if you had a recovery. So it looked like for 2 months, oh yeah, Bitcoin's recovering, people got into a lull, and then boom, it went down. And then, from here, this is 2024. This is leading into the ETFs and everything. So, not too much motion. Then they actually started a little bit more of a money printing here, and it ended up rising in accordance. So we saw this positive acceleration all the way through here. And then finally, there was a drop in acceleration for what I believe to be the first. No, actually, last month was the first month that you had negative deceleration, I should say. So, and then you had another one here where the acceleration decreased even further into negative 2,600. So that's on the monthly time frame. So that's significant. On the weekly time frame, if we take a look here, you see that we've had, hey, this is since 2023. We've had nothing but green momentum. So it's gone up, and then it would make a little small indent below in the negative territory. It ran up again, and then it would just gradually come down until you got one of these, and then, hey, it's off to the races. And we're up again, boom. And it just slowly comes back and drifts back down. And at this point, hey, we've come back down once again to see where we're at now. So what I'm looking at is, okay, we had two kind of equal tops here. We did not make a higher high on momentum. So the momentum actually slowed quite a bit here going into this next kind of run up. So I think we will start to see some real negative momentum going into 2026. Maybe it's for the first couple months of the year. And you have some type of swoop here, and then it ends up coming back up. I don't know. We will end up seeing, but now, I could objectively say, hey, the momentum is negative. And you had this drop here, the initial drop on the 27th of October, which I actually talked about. I think it was on the 26th. I said, like, hey, this if we have some type of broader market sell-off, which we did in the indexes, that's going to drag the rest of this down. And it did exactly that. So that was a weekly chart. Daily chart. Each time frame gets smaller and smaller, but we see here over the since August, you've had negative momentum, boom, boom, boom. Then you had a little bit of positive momentum, and then now you just had this downswing to where it never even tried to go positive since really mid-October. If let's call this a local top on the 10th, which this is the huge crypto drop. This is that single day candle that dropped Bitcoin $8,000. And then from there, it never recovered. It never recovered at that point. And now what I see is this is forming somewhat of a rounded top. A rounded top below to where you do this, and then I think it'll end up going back down. We see the acceleration has reached a peak, and now I see that ended up coming down too. Your momentum EMA, which is this green and now red line, is negative. So the average momentum is negative. So that's interesting to see. So the message is overall right now we are in negative territory, and until we see something that's absolutely bullish, I'm just going to remain that way. And in the same way that we said that we saw, okay, well, this is a higher high and higher low. As long as you start seeing lows and lower lows here, all right, well, this is picking up. So I expect to probably see one more lower low at least on this one before you start seeing any type of levity in the price. So it just keeps on getting steeper and steeper. So that's interesting. It is interesting for sure just to see where we're at. I enjoy momentum because it's objective. It is just like the change in the candle sides, and it really goes back to physics too. Your position being price, and then your velocity being the first derivative, and the second derivative being acceleration. So you're looking at all three of these. But we see on the 4-hour chart, this has been absolutely negative since early October and has not changed at all. So trying to go bullish at this point would not be wise, in my opinion, until it gives you proof of being bullish. So you had a little bit of recovery here, but then it just absolutely tanked to the bottom side. So I don't know, guys. We'll end up following this, but right now it's still in negative territory until otherwise noted. So let's take a look at the news for the upcoming week. BOJ, Governor Ueda, the Bank of Japan, I guess the chair, he is speaking at 3 a.m. on Tuesday because they have a interest rate decision, not this upcoming week, but the following week. I think around the 18th, I want to say. Jill's job opening. The big one is the federal funds rate. So the projection is 3.75. That we will have another drop in interest rates, one more. Down to from 4 to 3.75. So if that doesn't happen, believe me, Bitcoin is absolutely going to tank because like that would be a miss on the projection. So let's take a look for a second and see what actually we gotta check Poly Market to see what they're projecting at this point. Fed interest rate in December, Fed decision. So Poly Market at this point is betting, and it is gone just absolutely gapped. 25% decrease. 25 basis point decrease versus no change being at 8%, and we're not going to get a 50-point decrease. They was just too much indecision in the. It was kind of a toss up. They were leaning towards 25% basis point cut on the last FOMC minutes, but we'll see. $277 million worth of volume in this trade here, in this decision. So they're betting for January, no change. That's the look right there. No change, but I think that will also change too. April 2029, April 29th. No change, but that's a lot closer. So somewhere in the first 3 months of the year, we'll probably have another cut, but I think we probably will at this point have one in December. At this point, you see it's only 9,000 worth of volume, 65,000, 2 million, so on and so forth. The last thing I'll look at is the Bitcoin ETFs. So the last week, not too much. It was a quiet week overall for the market. Like no real movement in the NASDAQ or gold or anything. Just all the markets were quiet. You see there was a little bit of buying from the ETFs. One big day of selling, I guess that was on, was that the 12th? No, 12/4. So that was Thursday. A big day of selling on Thursday, and then a little bit of buying on Friday. But that did drop the price quite a bit. So it dropped the price there until us still being in this range. So any type of recovery was pretty much erased on Thursday. So I think that's pretty much it. At this point, I'm going to remain bearish. If you're shorting this, hey, you can eat. You could definitely eat off of the shorts because I think that it's going to remain that way for a little while. Probably at least another month or a couple weeks or so of just bearish activity before there is some type of turnaround. Again, it will be seen what the decision is for for the interest rates, and also the interest rates for America, but also the interest rates for Japan, because Japan is absolutely significant in this regard. And if they end up doing a rate hike, and let's see what they're projecting. I don't know if they're projecting at this point for Japan. They are not projecting for Japan at this point. Policy rate there, they've stayed for months and months and months. So let me look at Japan. What are they looking at? Bank of Japan decision in December. They're saying so if they increase this rate, that's going to send shockwaves to the rest of the world. It really is going to send shockwaves to the rest of the financial world. No changes at 10%. 25% increase is at 90%. So that's almost a guarantee. I mean, $1 million worth of volume there. I don't see that changing at this point. They're not going to increase it by 50 basis points. So I think at this point we almost have a baked in December rate hike for the Bank of Japan, which again, I think that will. When was the last time that they changed? They changed the last time. When did they change last? The last hike was last year. So we haven't had a hike all year. This was January of 2025, no change all year. And then December, hey, you have another change. And I guess they did hike in January technically. They technically hiked in January, but then just remained for the rest of the year in that spot. So I believe that we will see a hike. If not this decision, the next decision, things are getting tight in Japan. And if things are getting tight in Japan, it's going to get tight for everybody else too. So this may be the impetus for us to do a lot more money printing. Who knows? But I see that as being probable at this point. So I think that's pretty much it, guys. So this has been Chris Talks Crypto. Check out any crypto-based resources on christalkscrypto.com, and I will see y'all on the moon. Take care. Bye-bye.